We're going to talk about the war playbook and whether Trump is following that war playbook. Step number one, manufacture the threat. So they're all evil. They're dangerous. They're coming for you. So fear is the first weapon that's deployed.
Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly.
They definitely do. We haven't seen them. We don't have any evidence that they have weapons of mass destruction, but they believe us. They have them.
Exactly.
They've got them.
And Obama said the arc of history bends toward justice. And so a nice flowery thing to say there. So again, war just becomes a giant virtue signal. And as Troy and Reese so elegantly pointed out, it's not only war, this is used everywhere. So I have a name for Trump's playbook, and let's go into that now. It's called the Trump Bunker Busted Playbook. And so we're gonna go ahead and dive into whether or not he followed this war playbook. Well, welcome to Filibusted. We are going to dive in today, and I think you guys are going to really like this. I'm going to go quick and just give a quick overview. I think everybody knows what's going on with Iran, and so we're going to talk about the war playbook and whether Trump is following that war playbook. Let's dive into this war playbook. Now, it is not trademark pending. I put that there, so you can go ahead and submit that trademark. I don't want any credit for this. The only way that I came up with this was using God-given powers of observation and just seeing what's happening, and also the internet machine. And so this is a 6-step thing that is, I say it's made to be broken, because we don't want this playbook. Like, forget this playbook, get rid of this playbook. But let's go ahead and dive in to see how this playbook has been dusted off again and again and used over and over. So I have a name for Trump's playbook, and let's go into that now. It's called the Trump Bunker Busted Playbook. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into whether or not he followed this war playbook. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. Now, let's see. Step number one, manufacture the threat. So they're all evil. They're dangerous. They're coming for you. So fear is the first weapon that's deployed.
Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly.
They definitely do. We haven't seen them. We don't have any evidence that they have weapons of mass destruction, but they believe us. They have them.
Exactly.
They've got them.
But wait, there's more. Libya, imminent genocide. Syria, chemical weapons. Iran, nuclear breakout. So you see, even past things with Iran were misused. But this one, we actually, that could have been like, oh, we got to go in with our troops, and we got to find these sites, and we got to neutralize, and we got that could have been the playbook. But that's not the playbook that was used. We'll get into that here, Trump's approach. But it's always vague, always emotional. But you see what Trump has done is not vague, and it wasn't emotional. It was very specific. This is the Trump Bunker Busted Playbook. Okay, so Trump says in 2025, we didn't start a forever war, we stopped a forever threat. And so what about fear-mongering? Did he do that? Well, he called the Iraq war a lie, and he actually mocked the weapons of mass destruction narrative. Step 2, frame it as a moral imperative. So the war becomes a virtue signal. So we must act to save lives, promote democracy, or protect human rights. And that sounds amazing. Like, yes, I want that. So, if you're going to be against that, then I guess you're against this war. Well, actually, let's see. We have a responsibility to protect civilians. That's what they said for Libya. What about?
Oh my gosh. And that one is insane, because from what I understand with the Gaddafi Libya thing, I think really and I'm going to oversimplify this again, but this is a big topic that I encourage everybody to go do some deep research on. But Gaddafi and the whole government in Libya actually was just on the verge of breaking free from the petrodollar, and we didn't like that. And so, we need to go free the people from this oppression that they're going to... What?
Yeah.
I do think that's there's something in that for sure. That might be very close to the truth.
I think on this step, Ryan, on this step, I'm just like, I would say it's even more general than this. Like, everything nowadays is framed as a moral imperative.
Everything.
It's just
the playbook.
I think as a culture, we're facing a moral imperative fatigue. It's just like overload. And I think it's part of the reason that the conservatives started waking up again, like back in 2015. Is because we realized, like, oh, wait a minute, like, and it wasn't just happening on the liberal side; it was happening on the conservative side as well. But I think a group of people woke up and said, "I'm tired of everything being labeled as a moral imperative when there's actually no morals attached to it most of the time. There's no real ethics attached to it. Sometimes there are, but a lot of times there's not, or the ethics are a lot more blurry. The lines are a lot more blurry than people say they are, And so I don't know. I think, that hits the nail on the head as far as war is concerned as well. But I think it's a much more general, especially when politicians are involved and the media and everything. It's a much more general problem.
You're exactly right about the general problem. And just real quick, I'll give you some examples of how we're seeing the fatigue setting in. There's certain words that have lost their meaning nowadays that have used to be used as magic spells. I'll give you a couple. One is the R word, racist, sexist, homophobic, things like that. They've kind of like lost. People are just like, you can say that word all you want. I just think of like the Lord of the Rings. We were talking about Lord of the Rings the other day. It's like, that spell has no power here, or something like that. That has that has no power is basically that. It's like there's been a growing fatigue among people in the center, conservatives, even some people on the left that are just like, hey, these words, they don't mean anything to people anymore. You can call me that all you want. You call the people that, it's not doing anything. And I won't say it on this channel for censorship's sake, but a certain group of mid 1900s Germans also gets thrown around a lot. If we want to paint somebody as this, it's so evil that we have to apply this label to them because they're the embodiment of evil. So it's a moral imperative that we are against this. That's why the Russians are mid 19th centuries Germans. That's why Israel. If you don't like Israel and the Israel-Palestine, they're the Germans. It's like whoever it's got to be a moral imperative. The evilest thing you can think of, it has to be applied to them. And it's gotten to the point where people are like, I don't care. You can call people that all you want. There's no more moral imperative here because you've burnt out the so-called moral currency that was behind those words. No longer have the currency to them anymore.
Finishing up step 2 here, frame it as a moral imperative. We had freedom versus tyranny for Iraq. And Obama said the arc of history bends toward justice. And so a nice flowery thing to say there. So again, war just becomes a giant virtue signal. And as Troy and Reese so elegantly pointed out, it's not only war, this is used everywhere. So, and we're going to compare to whether Trump has followed this war playbook that has been used over decades, over the last century. So what about moral appeal? Well, he rejected nation building and he says, no spreading democracy. Now you can see his quote that he had about regime change, but that's not saying that the U.S. is going to do regime change. The people over in Iran certainly can do regime change. And I think that when we say that it humiliated Iran, it really humiliated the leadership. And then you see that the growing emboldenedness of the people of Iran. And so that is the idea behind that, is it's humiliating them. You saw people leaving Tehran when Trump gave this thing. So they're following directions from another leader from another country as far as advice goes. And so we see not that sort of engagement. We don't have this fake moral play up. Okay, step 3, enlist the media machine. And so it says push public consent through emotional saturation. And so this is, we have shocking footage. All the experts agree, trust the intelligence, let's just get that all on the media. So you have embedded journalists in Iraq. As an example, you have CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. They parrot the Pentagon talking points from this past year. And you have ex-generals on TV, and they also happen to be on the boards of directors of defense contractors. So this is, it's just a machine. It's just a machine. Yeah. So public consent through emotional saturation. And so then we have, what about media campaign? Well, he ignored the media consensus and he bypassed them with Twitter. So this is just absolutely incredible. I mean, they just had a blackout, and you see the media is all against and twisting and all this kind of thing. So that should really give you a clue. It's not the only information you need as far as what the truth is, but it should give you a clue as to what the truth actually is, and whether or not it's on the side of what the media is saying or not. Next up, step 4, we have a promise, a quick victory. It'll be fast, and we'll be greeted as liberators, they say. And so shock and awe, mission accomplished, limited airstrikes. These are all what we hear. The war is like a product. It's cheap, clean, and effective. So they sell it like that, just a product. So really disgusting and ridiculous. So a victory promise. So there was no overhyped promise of victory. It was just action. Like, it's done. Like, we struck, and that's it. All right, step 5, quietly lock in profits. So reconstruction contracts, weapons sales, and base expansion. So Iraq, Halliburton, Syria, Raytheon. What about Lockheed Martin? They always seem to win. So go ahead and just look up their involvement, or you can go ahead and see their stock prices. You can see what's going on with them. Of course, I want to be clear, we need defense contractors, we need private interests helping the government and that sort of thing. But there's a very big difference in being prepared for war and or deterring war through strength, as Trump has talked about. But there's a difference between that and let's start a war so that we can have more profits and make more, and we can support campaigns. And I didn't even have a segment here. I wanted to, but I didn't have time to research it, about the funding that happens to campaigns of warmongers and where that money's coming from. And so that's a whole nother thing that we can dive into. Forever Wars is just a business model. It's not a blunder. So then you have profiteering. So no Halliburton rebuild contracts, no ground war. As we see, no of these big defense contractors that we're expecting to come in. And so, again, all of this is for the time being, but we certainly don't see this same playbook going out over again and again and again. And as we saw every other time, it's the same thing again and again and again. And this is certainly a bunker busted playbook. This is not the war playbook, as it were. Step number 6. So Doug spilled the beans on this one before we even got into this segment, but move the goalposts. So we need to just stay a little bit longer. Welcome to year 10 of this 30-day strike. I love that quote. So they find new villains. So ISIS, militias, extremists, they changed the mission from regime change to now we got to stabilize and we got to keep peace. It's kind of like again, I always give this example of somebody setting a fire in the backyard and then going to the front door and sell a fire extinguisher. It's like, it's only $1,000, but you need it. So they wouldn't need it if you didn't set the fire. So we wouldn't need to keep peace and have stabilization if you didn't remove the leader without a plan or without actually needing to do that. And so then they say, we can't pull out now because it would be irresponsible. So it's kind of like, you start one thing and you got to keep it going. So
that last line reminds me also of the certain pandemic playbook as well that we had with the welcome to year 10 of the 30-day strike. It's like, welcome to year 2 of the 2 weeks to stop the spread.
Yes.
It's like, did we say 2 weeks? I think we actually said 2 years. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
We said 2 years from the beginning, not 2 weeks. It was 2 years. 2-year lockdown, 2 years.
That's right. Well said. Mm-hmm. So then we have the mission creep. So it was a one-night strike. There was no occupation, no follow-up. Again, for the time being, but we should expect that it would continue to go that route. So others sold war like a moral duty, and Trump treated this as more of like a strategic correction. It was brief, it was brutal, but it's finished. And so the idea now is to see what comes next and to see whether or not this is going to go the way it should. We saw a peace deal get negotiated, and we saw Trump's frustration with some of the reactions from Israel, both Israel and Iran, right after that. But if you watched Trump's address to the U.S., I kind of wanted to show a clip, but we won't have time for it. But you can see at the end where he is sort of choked up, and he thanks God for how everything went. And so the thing is, he obviously was torn in doing this. And so you can see it wasn't like you see where it's somebody who ran hoping to do this and wanting to do this. You see a real reluctance there. And so, but I do think he does know what he's doing, and we can see, we will see what comes out of it. So any other thoughts on this before we go into our final segment?
I think that's a really good point. You say that Trump's reluctance, because he definitely showed a lot of genuine concern of trying to get a new nuclear deal with Iran. And before Israel stepped in and did the strikes, he was like, we're going to, try to, and then began warning Iran of like, hey, this is going to be bad if you don't strike a deal with us, if you don't stop enriching uranium and we come to an agreement where you're not able to create a nuclear weapon, like there's going to be consequences. And Israel dealt out the first blow of consequences, and then he dealt out the second blow of consequences. But I do think it's a really good point to show. And now he's like, okay, let's do a ceasefire between Israel and Iran if that's possible. I don't know if that's going to be possible or not, but you do see him kind of straddling the line there between like trying to bring peace when it's possible, but then also being like, okay, this has to be done. And I think that when you're dealing with Iran, more often than not, eventually you will get to that point of saying, okay, this has to be done, because unfortunately their government, which you talked about, their government being humiliated, it is entirely propped up by the constant need to be plotting against the destruction of Israel, which is not a legitimate way to run a government.
I agree. We've actually covered the ideologies behind Iran and the Iran government in several previous episodes, and I can link to some of those below after this, but I think this is a good point, Reese. My one thing, Ryan, about Trump's bunker busted playbook that I thought of was this channel cannot afford to pay Trump royalties yet, so you're going to have to change that name. So just FYI.
Fair use. I'm going to claim fair use on that, but okay, yeah, that's a good point.
I think we've made a really good case for this not being exactly like it has been in the past, but because it hasn't happened yet, there are going to be those who are still coming out and they're going to say, right, maybe you've got a point, but time will tell. And I don't, it's a good argument, but I think that we've kind of taken out at least most of the legs of it, especially with like your two playbook things. That's perfect. You put those up against each other, and I mean, the only way you could refute that is if you just found inconsistencies in that and could add more to it. Like maybe there was something missing. I don't know. As far as I can tell, you did a really thorough job, and those line up perfectly in contrast to each other. And I don't see how you could really point out any faults in it, to be honest. Yeah. So the only thing that would be a potential is if this kind of just restarts. You know what I mean? Like if like we find ourselves in a couple months from now or even a year from now and something else happens, and then the war playbook that you put out is engaged instead. But it would literally have to be a restart. We're at the point that we're at right now. I don't think we could go back to the start of that war playbook and implement those strategies. We kind of got to finish the Trump's bunker strategy. I can't remember what you called it, but we have to finish that one out. Yeah. So I guess that's my biggest point is we'd literally have to completely restart, and then that's when it would start falling apart. But that would be different in my opinion. So, but I think that you did cover it well. It's just people are going to argue it regardless of whether or not you made a good point, because that's what people do.